ripping your hair out, throwing your laptop across the room. It happens.
Yeah, this is horrible. It feels very raw to talk about like what kind of a one-way ticket to burnout city, you know.
Yeah.
So
mental health in particular is such a really difficult subject, but obviously it does have ramifications in the workplace, especially when you're in a leadership role. So welcome to Generate Growth, the podcast where we talk all things e-commerce, growth and marketing. So been a hefty podcast filming session over the last few episodes. We've gone through a lot of different subjects that obviously relate to stress in honour of Stress Awareness Month. We've gone through AI. Why's my brain gone blank already? Not a great start. Systems. Panic discounting. And today, kind of honouring our monthly trend, we're going to be talking about stress, leadership, team, but from more of a personal lens. So is the anxiety already rising?
Oh, just a bit. You just like be vulnerable.
Be vulnerable.
Just do it.
Yeah, just do it. Just switch it on now.
Yeah,
how dare you?
This is where I really, really wish that AI could just duplicate me, because then that'd be a lot easier, wouldn't it?
Insert snippet of Sheena doing a weird little edit of Caitlin AI, which she's very good at.
She is very talented at that.
So unsexy topic,
yeah.
Stress. Nobody really likes talking about it, and I think mental health in particular is such a really difficult subject, but obviously it does have ramifications in the workplace, especially when you're in a leadership role. Yeah. So I really want to unpack that with you today, if you don't mind.
Yeah. Can't run out, can I? I'm already trapped in here.
So I think for everyone, stress looks so different.
Yeah.
It can be skipping a meal. It can be forgetting to go and have a wee. You know, yeah. it can be those silly like little things. Or it can be as literal as, I don't know, ripping your hair out, throwing your laptop across the room. You know, very little examples and quite aggressive, but it happens. You know, people can get so stressed out the next thing the desk is completely empty. Haven't done that, by the way. Just I've seen it in TV and films, so that's what I'm
referring to.
How do you feel like stress manifests in the day-to-day?
I think in the day-to-day, stress manifests as, for me, irritability. Like I really start to lose my patience. Mm-hmm. And something so small can send me completely over the edge. Mm-hmm. So I know that something's wrong when I feel myself just snapping a little bit quicker than I would usually. And I'd like to think that I keep that on a basis of like not taking it out on people. I think that's so important, because it's not their fault that you're stressed out in a bad mood, or even if it is their fault that you're stressed out and in a bad mood, everyone deserves to be given compassion and empathy. But I definitely think for me it's irritability and like annoyance. I'm feeling completely exhausted. I go to like an extreme of just wanting to drop everything.
Yeah.
Like, and what's really annoying about me as a person is I don't stop. Like when I know that those things are kind of getting hit, I will continue and I'll really soldier through. And that can leave me in an exhaustion cycle of kind of a one-way ticket to burnout city, you know.
Yeah.
So I definitely think in the day-to-day, stress shows up as that irritability, and it makes me feel really uncomfortable, because that's not who I'm aligned with as a personal standpoint. I don't want to be that person. Yeah,
and then you're in that frustration cycle, because you're like, God, I feel like I'm being an absolute bitch today, and I didn't want to be like that.
And then the guilt kicks in, and it's just it's never all ending. The exhausting emotions really just compound on, and I think that just ends up just you can't do anything. It's very suppressive. It makes you feel strangled by and frustrated at like your entire existence sometimes.
Yeah, it's a really oppressive feeling.
It is.
I really relate to the irritability. I'm the same. It's like I will literally be, I mean, I was jokingly doing it before, but when I was like this on the microphone, I'll practically want to do that with my laptop. Like I will be screaming like so many times at different platforms just because they've annoyed me.
Yeah.
And the other one is kind of like, I don't want to say disorganization because it isn't disorganization, but I almost become like a daydreamer. Like I'll be in the middle of a task and I forget what I was doing on the task and I start doing something else. And it's almost like my stress manifesting trying to do 10 things at once.
Try and stress yourself out more.
Yeah.
I know, like you personally, obviously, but you're a stress cleaner as well. You try and control your environment. Trait. And it's not an awful trait. I think you need to be kind to yourself. It's about control and trying to regain back that control. And I think that is just, you can see what we, like for me, I obviously I try and detach from my emotions. So I go into just like rolling into it and pretend it's not happening. And you try and do the complete opposite, which is control the situation by organizing your environment, trying to, like trying to concentrate on 1,000,001 different things. And I think that is fundamentally, like, we're very similar personality wise, but it's how stress appears in two people very differently.
Yeah, I think that's why I'm so good at systems, because fundamentally I go, let's get organised. Yeah. Everything's got to be organised. Like, it's crucial.
Yeah, pens down. We need to pause for a minute and rebuild something.
Yeah, I think funnily enough though, they're kind of like the smaller side of the stress symptoms. So how has stress manifested for you, like on the larger scale?
Yeah, this is vulnerable. It feels very raw to talk about, like, we've already done the podcast on like what we've been through over the past 2 years, and that manifested to me like I couldn't go a day without throwing up, and it was every morning at the same time. I was nauseous to the point of like sick, and it was so debilitating. Like, and I still like it's such a trigger, even having a nauseous feeling for me now. I would be in the middle of team meeting sometimes, just like, guys, I have to stop for 1 minute.
Yeah.
And it must be difficult, like seeing someone go through that, but going through it internally, you just want to like ask yourself the question, what the fuck is up with me? Like, other people are like taking this in their stride or like doing really well, and you just feel like such an idiot. Couple that with like not eating, not sleeping. I think like I've gave myself severe insomnia patches. Like I wouldn't say that I suffer with insomnia non-stop, like in a Fight Club kind of way, but I do get through that period of not being able to sleep, being up at 2-3 o'clock in the morning and desperately not trying to work, and just kind of like cycle down my headspace a little bit so that I can rest and relax. And I think I just forget to look after myself. Like I've not really looked after myself for the past 18 months. I didn't hydrate. I didn't eat during the day. I would then binge at night, and it was like an absolute like shit show of a lifestyle that then just compounds into how you run and manage everything.
Yeah.
So I think from like that really vulnerable standpoint is that everything can look fine to, especially if you systemize your business, everything can look fine and it can continue to run and operate well, even when you're really going through it.
Yeah.
And it's difficult to continue through the working day when that's happening. But as I said at the beginning, I'm one of those people that just pretend and ignore it and pretend everything's normal and fine and continues to go on that path until it actually gets a little bit too serious. Like I caused myself really serious stomach issues, and the name of it. My digestive tract got
gastritis.
I got damaged digestive tract because of that, and that was a really, really big wake up call for me.
And I think that's what's so horrific and unfortunate about these situations, that when you're in a business, you do keep going and you keep on going in the day to day, and you kind of push down those emotions, or in my case, you try and over-organise something else to try and deal with the emotions.
No one's phoned in sick too, is there?
Yeah, and then your body starts turning around and going, stop it right now, to the most ridiculous degree. Like my example's mental as well. Like I started having the collapsing episodes, didn't I, where one night I literally fainted at the top of our stairs and fell down all of them. And that was because I was that exhausted. I was that stressed and I was that exhausted. My body just went, off switch.
Yeah.
And it did it for me because I wasn't doing it. I wasn't showing up. I wasn't giving myself the relaxation and the chill that I deserved. And then that was it. My body went, no, now's the time. You've got to stop.
Yeah.
And I think that is the really, really grim, horrible side of things when you don't kind of pay attention to those little signals, because I do think the irritability in the organisation is a signal.
Yeah.
And I think it's our body, our brain, etc. telling us, well, it is literally just reaching out.
Yeah,
it's going, help me.
Check yourself.
Help me. Yeah. I'm struggling. But it's important that we listen, because what are the ramifications if we don't?
Yeah.
And how do they impact other people?
I mean, it just makes you want to burn everything to the ground. It really does. And I think one of the most mature things that we did when, like, you, me, like Charlotte, who was with us at the time, were going through a very stressful period in our lives, was that we could put ourselves our own feelings and how we were so frustrated, and we knew that we could reach out to each other and really just like lean on each other for a bit. And for that I'm internally grateful, you know, because like you don't, it's so isolating of a feeling, like, because like your symptoms can be so unique to you as well. Trying to explain it to someone, it can like seem so barbaric and so extreme, like you don't even understand what your behavior is, like, and how extreme it is. Like telling someone that you fell down the stairs because your body literally just shut off and went no. You can say that now with so much like calmness about you, but at the time it was really, really distressing.
It was traumatizing,
and it was on the back of really traumatizing situations, and that was really a big struggle for us coming out the other side and recognizing that it wasn't working anymore, and why we went down, like, why we continue to look after ourselves, but why we went down the path of, you know, splitting up the agency into what it is now, and really optimizing key focuses for people, and understanding that success doesn't necessarily look like a financial metric, but having that freedom of mind back as well. Yeah,
and success doesn't look the same for everyone.
Exactly.
Like, fundamentally, we've joked this before, but we'd rather have a job in McDonald that's really intense, you know, following those burger SOPs that we spoke about, and feel happy and content than stressing ourselves out.
That's exactly why I've fired clients before. And clients have fired us. We probably stressed them out, you know what I mean? But I've fired clients on the grounds of, like, this isn't working from the team's perspective, and being able to, like, manage that person. It's causing too much stress, and it's destabilizing the entire ship. And I think that's when you start to prioritize, like, you go into a new mindset towards business development, because I am in the day-to-day operation. I'm not going to sit here and lie. Manage ad accounts. I work proactively with the team. I love doing that. Is it the best business model in the world? No, because I can't take a day off, and I'm so passionate about the client's accounts that I'll put everything aside to, which obviously compounds stress. I look after my own business, and I look after the ad accounts that support a lot of people's businesses, and the ad dependency can be quite high sometimes. So I think, like, from that perspective, it's understanding your limitations and how you're going to get to that next level, which is why we build out such solid business plans of, okay, I'm now stepping into a new role that I've never I'm challenging myself on so many levels, like speaking on this podcast, huge fucking challenge, you know? And I think understanding that I need to put a media buyer in now, part of that love of the business, to really challenge and grow myself into, like, the founder and the leader of this business, is going to be a huge step that I'm going to have to take. It's going to be very stressful, but we've built the systems, we've built the SOPs, we've built the processes to make sure that can be done properly. And also we've built a system of a hierarchical, like, scheme within our business to make sure that everything is quality assured, and it's going to really, like, give the client what they deserve, which is a good quality service,
which is key.
It's
important. Do you think there's a difference then between, let's call it little stress and kind of like capital S stress? Do you think, let's say you've got like a week of your shipments have gone missing somewhere, and you know, there's loads of stuff that's just kind of derailed on the back of that. us, for example, the other week, you know, we had a video that we were due to send out, and then it sent us off schedule, and then all of our content was off schedule, and we were panicked about it, but couldn't do anything. We couldn't control the situation. Do you think there's like a massive difference between that, and like how do you even begin to learn when it's kind of like a little stress versus a capital S?
I think there's a lot of education that needs to happen around stress, because stress isn't a bad thing.
Oh, 100%.
It challenges us. It makes us grow.
Yeah.
When you go to the gym to work out, I don't think when, but when you go to the gym to work out, you stress your muscles, and that's how you grow. They regrow and they regenerate, and then you end up stronger. And that's the exact same situation with stress on your mental state.
Yeah.
It allows you to build that resiliency tool to be able to deal with fucking anything. Like, we've been through so much that now we're so resilient that things that used to send us down like an absolute spiral, like the video, we would have absolutely had a mentee B before that. It's just like, okay, it's another thing. What can we do? What can we control and what can't we control? But I think the capital S stresses are when your values are misaligned in what you're building.
Yeah.
And I think that causes so much more stress, because it becomes chronic in what you're developing. Like, you do not enjoy what you're doing, and it's been a period of time. I'm not talking a week or two where you've had a bad month or whatever that looks like, but it's been a period of real groveling. That's when you've got to look at the situation, because why is it so painful right now? What have you done? What is your options? And keeping those conversations open with like your trusted people in your circle will really help you develop a game plan out of that. Yeah,
it's understanding when enough's enough, isn't it? And when you need to make those changes. Team then, how much do you think they end up on the receiving end of it? How do you think it drips down?
Oh, I really hope that I've never ever intentionally made a team member 100%. Feel like a dickhead 100%. Or like treated them so. Because that to me is the biggest indicator that I'm so detached from my values. I don't really like labeling myself as empathetic, compassionate, all that stuff, because I feel like, I don't know if you know, but I just don't like kind of labeling myself like that. But one thing I really do strive to be is kind. And I just really want to understand the shoes that people are in. And I think whenever we've had difficult conversations, there's times when I've fucked up and there's stuff that's happened with a team member because they've done something or whatever. I just really hope that they're able to understand that stress has maybe just compounded a little bit too much. And I think one of the fundamental things that I've done within the agency right now is I've just started to be really frank and honest. So today, for example, we were stressed out. We're travelling to Glasgow tomorrow. And a bunch of stuff's gone down. Glasgow's on fire, and you know those small businesses are struggling, and it's been like Glasgow's very close to our heart, so it's been like one of those things. But I this morning was like, and we've got the podcast recording for a number of hours today, and we've got this and we've got that, and we've got to understand that, you know, and it was a lot of stuff. And I was like, to be completely frank to the team, this is a lot. I need you to do X, Y, Z, and this is what I need you to do this week to support me. And having those open and honest conversations, I think, has really developed the team's trust in that I've got this. I just need like support systems in place, and that is fundamentally what they're here to do, is to provide me that support so that we can all grow as individuals and as a business. But also understanding that I am a human too, and I do have limitations. And I think that superhero exterior that I've put out for like 3-4 years of everything's okay and nothing can stick, it's just not flying this year anymore. I think I need to really focus on developing and understanding within the team that, you know, I need to look after myself for this thing to grow.
Like shit happens. You need to understand that shit happens and I'm feeling that, as opposed to shit happens and you're kind of brushing it off. Like, new vibe.
I think as a small business owner, you've really got to understand that, like, you've got to put your ego in check, and you've got to respect your team in order for them to respect you, you know? So, being vulnerable a little bit, like, when you need to be, not overdoing it, like, they're not your on-call therapist, but knowing that sharing that vulnerability will open that transparency within your agency and ultimately allow everyone to feel comfortable to step forward when they are feeling that, so that you can come up with game plans to help make sure that your team are supported.
Yeah. It's so difficult, I think, those boundaries sometimes, because obviously, as you said before, you're very much in the operations and the client accounts and things like that, which has kind of meant that by proxy, I've kind of gone into like that team management role, especially when it comes to like one-to-ones and, performance and things like that. So I've had like a lot of difficult conversations and ensured that we are doing everything we can do to support people and all that jazz. And that's fucking hard sometimes. Like, I've left calls and I've just sobbed. And it's so difficult because I've kind of created this little like policy in my head anyway. And I kind of call it like the step back policy. And anytime someone says anything and it's a little bit rude or they've done something wrong, I have to kind of implement the step back policy, and I have to step back for a second and I have to think basically everything that you've just told me, what are they going through today as well? Because I'm like, yeah, I'm feeling stressed and I'm having a difficult time, but as their leader, I need to step up and actively support them right now, even if I'm struggling, which is something that I've had to do at times, because I've had a team member go, oh my God, I've booked up on this client account and I'm all panicked and and I'm like, oh, right, okay, right, let's do XYZ. Behind the screen, I'm having a panic attack. Because I'm just like, you need me right now. And that is my responsibility to step up for you, because I don't know that behind the screen, they're not having a panic attack over this.
I think that's one of the challenges of having a remote business or an online business as well, because in an office, you would be able to physically see someone struggling and you're kind of dependent on their typing style.
Which you do, to be fair.
To kind of see how they are, if that makes sense. So I know it's like that whole thing of like when you're in your family household, you know who's coming up the stairs, and when someone's typing changes, you know that they're not necessarily in the mood. And I think that's what we do so perfectly, is we activate like this kind of siren effect almost, because I'm like, okay, that person seems a little bit off. Go.
Send someone in.
Yeah, send someone in. Like, go on.
Who do they need right now? Send someone in.
Do they need a laugh, or do they need something a little bit more serious? Do you know what I mean? And that's why we had the social zone within our business, which I'm not afraid to say that like our team spend about 15 to 20 minutes a day in there on paid time, just chatting and de-stressing, because if they were in an office environment, that's what they would be doing. And I think it's so important to remember that there is people behind the screens, and that it is so important to allow them the room to really de-stress,
So kind of pivoting back to like the business side of things, then obviously you've been through a lot, you've sacked clients, you've had misappropriation of funds, all this jazz. What a horrible term to use in that context. Just see, the point proven though. To be fair, point proven.
Over you, right?
How, and for founders as well. Like we spoke about it a couple of weeks ago. Like they get to a point where they're throwing everything at it to try and fix that chronic stress. How do you know when enough's enough?
I'll use an example, right?
Oh, I love an example.
When the funds were misappropriated, Charlotte and I made a decision, and I'm not even scared of this getting out there anymore, that we were going to still continue to work in that business for 2 to 3 months. I know, mug. But we really cared about the
strategic.
people. We really cared about the people in the business who were on the ground, like working in the factory, who supported us, who believed in our vision, like when we were doing like the investment. And me and Charlotte were checking in daily because it was so misaligned to our values, because we weren't being honest and transparent. We had to jump on calls with the people that had literally exploited us for hundreds of thousands of pounds and smile and just be like, nice one, cheers.
Because they spoke normally as well, as if they hadn't done that. It was psychotic behaviour.
Yeah. It was like it was all a joke and that it wasn't a lot of money. And then it got to a point, like, it was Christmas. It was a really hard Christmas. We were so scared for the new year. And, like, we sold the agency, but that's a story for a different time and all that jazz. But, like, talking about this specific scenario, we were turning up daily. We were still doing the same role in that team. And And there was a point, I always remembered like Charlotte going, "Are you actually still acting? Like, are you still pretending?" And I was like, "Of course I am, Char." Like, and she won't mind me saying this. I was like, "Of course I am. We're still, these people are fucking awful." But it got to the point where I had that much of a mask on. I really realised that my values were so misaligned from this situation, because what did you say right at the beginning of this episode? Honesty and transparency is baked into this business, and it always has been. Even if we fucked up a client's account, or even if we'd done something wrong, we'd always come out and we'd wash our hands we fucked up, and do you want to continue, or do you want a way out? Like, it's that's just the standard of the business. And it really shone like a light on how like I wasn't being myself. And unfortunately at the time, like, my granddad got like taken into hospital, and I was just so exhausted, and no one would have knew, because I just had this mask on. There was pictures of me at the time being taken when we were doing things that you wouldn't even. I met Liam Gallagher around that period, you know.
Oh my God, that was mental.
My biggest like moment, but it was like I was happy, but I wasn't there. I don't even remember it. Like, and there's pictures around that time where I don't recognise myself, and I remember saying to Charlotte, I've had enough. Yeah. Like, I'm calling this quits. And because we literally sent an email and said, that's us out. And unfortunately, that's when things got really, really nasty. It's like it was happy to be puppeteers for a bit, but then as soon as we said we were done, we were iced out of everything. And I think that kind of value misalignment is really when you start to struggle with the path that you're going down, and that can compound. And I only think after the fact the stress started to compound, because it was almost like then I ripped off the mask again, I come back into who I am, but then you're so disorientated and you have to kind of build who you are again, unfortunately, and that's a lot of work. And I still don't think I'm there. I think it's been like over a year now, and I'm still like fighting for who I was. I mean, I always want to be a grown-up version of that person who I was before, but that person who was there before that, who had the confidence, who had you know, that honesty and transparency at the forefront of their values, coming back in and building that back up again.
Yeah, I always like that elastic band analogy when it comes to resilience and like anxiety, and they kind of say, you know, you stretch it and you stretch it, you stretch it and it'll come back, but there will get to a point where you stretch it and you stretch it a little bit too much and it gets some little tears in it and things like that, but it still works. And I think that's kind of like that point. It creates those like micro tears in you, and they do make you feel a little bit more broken, though I don't really like that term. And it just makes that bounce back a little bit harder sometimes, but it doesn't stop that existing. It just means you've kind of got like those parts of yourself that fundamentally feel like they've just been exposed a little bit too much.
It's a bit raw.
Could have done without it. Thanks very much. Could have very much done without it. And then you feel that sense of like vulnerability in like so many different situations that you wouldn't normally have felt. So in terms of stress then, and coming back to kind of like the key conversation, what do you think someone can do to almost, because I feel like when you've got a stress there, you've got like there's something bubbling away, like there's a pain point. How does someone identify that and kind of strip that away in business?
I think there's like, and this might be very like, it might be completely wrong, but from experience, I feel like there's two types of people. There's talkers and there's writers.
Okay.
And I think like you constantly have to journal it out. Or typers, writers, talkers, or typers. And you have to find your tool of being able to express yourself so you don't lose yourself. Yeah. During that period in particular, I didn't do any of the above. And now I flit in between what I need to do to get it off my chest and start to build up again. And I think really like utilising writing in a journal or speaking into like a notes app or like typing up a document of how you're feeling, potentially using AI to analyse that if you want to. I don't do that with my journals because I just feel like it's a way of just like downloading my brain onto things, and I don't really want to analyse myself. So I think like fundamentally using those tools to be able to realign yourself and come back down to earth a little bit, if you can do that and compound it on a daily basis, I feel like you're going to recognize quicker when you're going down a path that you don't quite enjoy.
Yeah. And that looks different for everyone.
Yeah.
I think, you know, you can have your creatives wherein your outlet is picking up a paintbrush and getting that out your head.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, cooking's another big one for you, and gardening, like things like that are very much outlets that kind of get the shit out your head, really, and kind
it's
of
like stressing about something else temporarily with cooking.
Yeah, if you think about it,
it's like, why the fuck is this pea shoot not growing?
But it's something that you created and something that you've nurtured, though, and I think fundamentally that is something that massively can alleviate your stress because you're not hyper focused on the stress anymore. So I think that's something we can all be guilty of, especially like in work. Like if I show up and I'm focused on, oh my God, I broke that system, it is absolutely doing my head in, and I spend my entire day focused on it, but I'm getting nowhere because I'm that stressed out about it that I can't think clearly, then what was the point? I may as well give myself a little 15-minute break and go ahead and just pivot.
Yeah.
And then that clears things up for me.
Yeah.
So in terms of practical steps then, because I'm a practical steps girly, I love a bit of personal development and self-help. What would you say is like one practical step that someone could take away from this podcast? Like what helped you that might help someone else?
I am going to be mega raw here, and when I started therapy mid last year, and I've spoke to a lot of, well, I've not spoke to a lot of therapists, but I've never really like stuck it out for a period of time. I started therapy last year, and when I met my therapist, and it's funny because last week we were literally reflecting on it, and I was that much up in the clouds, I couldn't even stay on one subject like for a long period of time. It was like 3 minutes of cut to something else, cut to something else, cut to something else. And she really, really taught me about grounding. And I remember at the time, you'll know this, I was like, God, I'm paying all this money for a therapist just to tell me to breathe and just be in the moment. How is that fundamentally happening?
Did she at one point tell you to go and make a brew?
Yeah.
In your session?
Yeah. Yeah. Literally, that's how bad it was because I was not looking after myself that much. And grounding, and it took me 8 months to get grounded. And what I mean by grounding is literally being in the moment for 2 to 3 seconds. That's how small I had to start it, because she tried me on 2 to 3 minutes to begin with, and it sent me up. I had to just sit, realise I was in a moment, breathe through it, and then come back out, and then we worked on other things like imagine a stream in your mind, and like whatever like comes in, you pop it on like the stream, and it kind of floats off.
Cute.
And it's so basic from a self-care perspective, but it took me 8 months to develop into my life. And I think if there's one thing that I could say to anyone who's particularly stressed out, or they feel like that chronic stress has kicked in, really look and explore the grounding exercises of being in the moment and understanding that this environment isn't a danger to me right now, and it's done wonders for my life. So now that I can really like dig into other things that are going to help me grow and build that resilience as a person. But for me, it's that grounding exercise 100%.
Yeah. I have another practical step in terms of alleviating stress. For me, it's talking. And I think it's fundamental. I always remember, and I know she'll watch this and she'll be buzzing about it as well. My nan, when I was a kid, she turned around and said, do not bottle things up because they turn toxic inside your body. And I've never known anything to be more true in my entire life. And I will take that to the grave with me. Like, I know that when I was feeling really, really unwell last year and I started getting to the point of collapse, that I was exhausted and I wasn't saying it.
Yeah.
I know that. And I know that change will only come from having those conversations. We said this about systems. You have those conversations with your team, you get the feedback, and you get to where you want to be. It is the exact same thing when it comes to that big stress. If you're not having those conversations with someone and saying, listen, I'm struggling right now, then you're staying stuck in it and by yourself. And that alone can be a horrible feeling. It's isolating, and it's not going to get better. As human beings, we're social creatures. We kind of rely on, as much as I don't like it, we do rely on some human interaction to level ourselves out and ground ourselves. And I think that is so crucial as well.
Yeah, I like that one. I think being a conversationalist and listening as well as talking, I think, is so important. 100%. I remember one of the things that we started saying to each other was, do you need an ear right now, or do you need advice?
Yeah. Or do you need space?
Yeah, do you need space? And I think that was so powerful, not just personally, but for the business. Like, I think sometimes just recognising what, headspace you're in and being able to communicate that effectively is... Yeah. It's grounded in a sense. It helps you bring back down to the moment.
Yeah, I think that what do you need from me is something that founders as well would benefit from so much, because they might have a team member that just needs a vent.
Yeah.
They might not need a system to be fixed. They might not need, a disciplinary. They might just need an ear.
2 minutes. Yeah. 2 minutes of your time.
I think it's just crucial, that listening, that talking, that grounding. They're very, very basic snippets of advice, but for such a good reason.
Yeah.
Okie dokie. I feel like I kind of ripped all the plasters off with you there. I apologise. How are you feeling?
Tired.
Good job it's the end of the day and you can go ahead and get a Guinness and some food then, isn't it?
Oh yeah. Well, I've got to go and check on everything first before I can do that. But
life of a business owner.
Yeah, life of a business owner, unfortunately. But
grounding exercises, talking, we're getting there. We're alleviating the stresses. I
just want to say as well, just to cut you off, just thank you for the effort that you put into really doing these episodes of vulnerability. I think there's always going to be a challenge and an element of you being my partner that the story behind and that you're touching on nerves, and I think it can be very challenging to hear and sit and see your partner be
I feel like I'm making you squirm and I really don't like it. As much as I've got an evil streak, I definitely don't like it. Not with you.
Not with me.
Not with you. No, anyone else in my life. I've got an evil streak. I'll probably be bullying you. It's my love language. But no, I think they're really important conversations to have, and that is why I like having these conversations in this capacity with you, because I think we've both been through it, and fundamentally a lot of people can actively learn from that. And I always hate when people think there's no light at the end of the tunnel, and I think that's why sometimes you can find some comfort in discomfort.
100%.
And that's it for me. If one person listens to this and they're just like, do you know what? I really see myself in that, and I'm going to go and do a grounding exercise right now so I don't snap at my creative strategist, then I feel like we've won.
Yeah, 100%.
So thank you for sharing everything with me.
You too.
I'm going to have to apologise profusely because we haven't planned in advance the next podcast, so we can't really give a snippet away, which means our editor's going to be absolutely livid. So they can insert a little clip here as well of
hate.
Yeah, basically. Sign off the way that we sign off team meeting.